How long? Is there any chance you might be having a game? Are you completely retired? Because you run us ragged sometimes.
She's really worried about your shirt size.
In the past, I'm a coaching player. I do a little bit of training, but I just play locally now, amateur. But the head thinks I can play, but legs have gone now.
We've just obviously we'll pull a few questions that's been asked for people that can't get here tonight. The first one that Sarah's just given me, and thanks for this one, Sarah. I think this is probably for Richard and us as a team. First of all, we'll get Richard's views, and then I'll say a few words on this as well. But what are the views on dual reg, and will we be using it at the club next year?
Obviously, if anything is to benefit Halifax, that's paramount. Whether that be dual reg, loan signings, buying or selling players, it's got to be right for us, for Halifax. We are in discussions with a couple of teams. I won't lie to you. Now, whether we go down that route or not is 50-50 at the minute. I have obviously been involved in Swinton. Marlon was obviously coaching at Swinton while I was at Warrington, and there is some pitfalls, in my opinion, towards with the dual reg if it's not handled correctly. As a young aspiring coach, I want to be in charge of my team on a weekly basis, understanding my players, and not being thrown players left, right and centre, which is what, to be fair, Warrington did to Swinton on occasion. And it can be distracting. It can be. That said, there is some merits to it. You know, you're going to get quality players. I know Swinton. I think Adrian Morley turned up for Swinton and Lee Breers. So, you know, you're going to get some quality players. I'm undecided at the minute, if I'm being brutally honest, on the whole of the dual registration, whether that be Super League or in the Championship. I'm not quite sure who benefits. If it benefits Halifax, then it will be, and it's right for Halifax, it's something we will look at. If we feel it doesn't, and it could hinder our development as a team and as a club, then it's something that we won't do. So rest assured it will be done with our best intentions, whether that's rightly or wrongly. So I'm not quite sure I've answered that, but that's the way it is.
The dual reg will be in place next year. Yeah, the dual reg is in place, and there are a set of rules that the RFL states. Now, each club can discuss each other's, you know, circumstances and ensure that dual reg is you know, to benefit them both. So, certainly, from my point of view, and I'm sure that the board of directors and Richard, as Richard said, wouldn't develop a dual registration partnership with a team that we're going to send somebody to get fit. I think we've got to use players that's going to help us and helps Richard, you know, in his team selection. And I think that's the way we've got to do it. And it's like I said, other clubs are using it. If we want to punish ourselves, and I did that, I will hold my hand up. I did that at Featherstone, and we punished our team really because everybody else were using the system and we weren't. And I will guarantee you that Featherstone Rovers wouldn't have finished second last year without the dual reg or loan signings.
How would you go on with dual reg? You might be having dual registration with a team who you're going to be in the same league.
I think the term dual reg, we all run scared, you know, and it can be a bit daunting. Handled right and correctly, it can benefit. It can. I've been a part of that. It would get messy if we dual regged with a team who we eventually end up playing. That's where things need to be ironed out. I'm not sure who would have the responsibility, either the parent club or the dual registration club. If we talk about loan signings, I think it's a more of a comfortable term. I think getting loan players for our level from Super League, who are full-time athletes, can benefit us. It can, and I'd be lying if I said it wouldn't do. The right players, by the way. That said, if it's en masse, different players every week, and it can be disruptive. I've also seen that. So well managed, it can work, but obviously, abused, it won't do.
and again, the key is the loan. You know, the loan is a better word than dual reg, and you know, you can look and say that, you know, one game here, there, and everywhere doesn't benefit anybody. But for loan signings, you know, certainly if there's a parent club that is, you know, potentially going to be in the middle eight, I'm sure that the board of directors will do the right thing by the contract to state that, you know, Halifax will benefit if that does happen.
Richard, last year some of our younger team members were sent out on loan to a lower to Championship 1, and certainly it benefited at least one of our players, Joe Martin, who came back and got man of the match in the last game. Would that be something that you would look to send them out for more experience with the Championship 1 side, some of the younger players?
Yeah, and that's one of the benefits of the system, you know. And if it's tiered, right, as in Super League to Championship 1, it can work. Where there's a conveyor belt of talent, and just, you know, on Joe, you know, I watched the last game here, and I thought he was a real good standout player for Halifax, and I'm pleased that he's on board with us. As I said earlier, fullback's a great position, and I'm looking forward to working with him and the rest of the younger players within the squad. Yes, we would look to, you know, we've got quite a large squad, and they're not all going to get picked. You know, as you say, we've got 4 hookers, so maybe 2 of them might need to go and play somewhere else. So yeah, it's something that we'll look at. Hopefully, I'll be building relationships with other coaches in the Championship. At Championship 1, I've already got the connections within Super League, whether we need to get players from them. But yeah, it's something that we would look at doing, is loaning our players out.
The dual registration, what do you think about the morale of the younger players when you start bringing the older, more mature players in and sideline the younger players? What does it do for their morale?
Yeah,
and their
obviously.
playing abilities?
Yeah, confidence. You know, you're picking somebody else above them. There's issues with confidence there. That needs to be managed, and that's one of the pitfalls of it. But as a coach, my job is to manage the people around me, so that would be on my remit. There is benefits as well, by the way. Adrian Morley playing for Swinton was great for Adrian Morley, but it was also good for the players, the younger players at Swinton, to play with a world-class player who's played at the top of his game, and to get some advice. And I know Adrian did that, went down to many a session whether he was playing or not, and offered his advice. And I think for the good of the game, that's brilliant that our senior players can do that. Going back to the younger players, that's just something we'd have to manage, we'd have to look at. I wouldn't play a player who didn't deserve to be played, whether that was a Halifax player or anybody else. You know, they'd have to work hard to be involved in our team, and like I said earlier, it would have to benefit Halifax for that to happen. It may be at the expense of a younger player. That younger player may not play anyway because Scott Morell's keeping him out of the team. So that's just the nature of the beast, I'm afraid.
Dual registration, totally, utterly against it. No disrespect to Swinton, but Swinton, not the same IUP club as what we class ourselves in Halifax. And yeah, Adrian Morley to Swinton, probably very good. Libriers, no disrespect either to Richard and to Warrington, but I believe Warrington abused the system. They used Swinton to get players back to fitness. I'm sure here at Halifax we've built a site together that we can get there into the top 2 or 3 without the dual registered. The morale already mentioned about the players. I don't think it helps our players to improve their morale, and I think we stick with what we've got, unless it's a season-long loan, which I don't class as dual registered. Then I believe you've picked the team, you've got the players, and we should stick by them, and we are Halifax, not any other club.
I'd just like to say, if we did have a parent club, or we did have people coming here that played for another club, we wouldn't be watching Halifax, we'd be watching somebody else. I can watch Halifax, and it's doing. I'd rather lose with his own players than win with another team's players. I live in Huddersfield, and if we ever had an Huddersfield player playing for us, I'd be heartbroken. I could walk around Huddersfield and end up needing the time.
I used to play for Huddersfield.
A player that's from Huddersfield played for Halifax. On loan, yes, as Neil said, but not them telling us who to play.
Yeah, I understand. You know, I understand and I appreciate your thoughts and your opinions on that. And I have to give you my assurance that it would, if we did, it would be for our benefit. It would be. Listen, there's good players at Huddersfield. You know, the modern game now. You know, we'd be foolish to knock anybody back in terms of offering us assistance. You know, if that's right for us, whether that be from Huddersfield, Bradford, or any. No, okay, leave it there. Castleford, Leeds. Yeah, let us. Yeah, I appreciate your thoughts on that. It's something that we're definitely bearing in mind. Don't worry about that.
Richard, I'm delighted to see you back at Halifax. We want to win. You're there to win everything you can for Halifax. Let's not tie his hands up straight away. He will do whatever he can to win whatever he can. Let's just not give him the rules too early. Please win first.
On a lighter note, this sports conditioner who gives advice on fitness and losing weight, will that be available for fans? No, Julian. I'm not saying you're overweight, love. I'm just saying.
Well, we're actually doing some work at Luke Campbell's gym. So he runs. I'm probably going to plug his gym here. He's away at Fax Fit, and we're going to be doing some work there. I do know he does circuit classes 6 till 8, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So for anybody who needs that, there you go.
Under 20s, there won't be an under 20s team next year. I think that's probably common knowledge. That was decided before I came to the club, but I can certainly support that. At Featherstone last year, the under 20s stroke, under 23s, whatever you call it, was a very poor league, and certainly for the costs, between 80 and 90,000 pounds is the cost of a under 20s or 23s team. And I think if the structure's not right, then the pathway that we can create with community clubs, and Richard will probably touch on this because of his experience with Warrington, we can create our own pathway and scholarship from the club itself. I think the 20s. If we're going to have a team, it's got to be the 19s. I think it's all or nothing. The 19s is where the crop of the kids are, and the 20s last year, you've got people playing from amateur clubs to come and fill in. Now that's that can't be right for the club. And I think in my opinion, the sooner they get to the old A team or reserve grade, the better. But that's not going to happen next year. But obviously Richard can support that.
Yeah, obviously there were some decisions made before I arrived at the club. That being one of them. I'm not absolving responsibility there because I'm obviously accountable as well. But what we have put in place is, and it's not just off the back of Joe who plays so well towards the end of the year, and we're going to put in place an elite development group. It's not, they won't be playing fixtures, but what they will be doing is training once a week with first team coaches. And obviously the conditioner, and we'll be monitoring their progress. It may be upwards from 6 to a dozen players who will be free to play on the weekend for their amateur clubs if they're amateur players, or if they're good enough to Championship 1 clubs. We've got a relationship there where we can send them out. So we're not discarding it. And my remit when I went to Warrington was to produce first team players for Warrington. It wasn't to win the under 20s league. Or grand finals as a byproduct of producing players. We did that, which was great. There is now currently 9 players who played in the under 20s in 2012 with me, who won the grand final, who are playing first grade now at Warrington. Gaz O'Brien, James Laithwaite, Rhys Evans, Ben Evans, so Gene Ormsby. There's a wealth of talent. My passion is junior development. That's where I earned my stripes. And for me to come on board at Halifax, one of my conditions was that we do run this group. We do keep these players playing. I've got a really good relationship with Simon Griggs, and he talks to me about the talent in Halifax. in all the clubs around on a Saturday and a Sunday morning. The talent that there is there that is untapped. That is something that I'll be keen to get on board. And if there's talented players playing on a Sunday and they're at a level to come into our elite group, we'll invite them in. And then if they progress in that group, we'll invite them into the first grade squad. That's the pathway that we're going to run next year. In my mind, that won't be permanent. We'll be looking to put something in place either the following year or on from that, where we get a Halifax junior team playing. That is my passion. We'll do our best to try and get that, but rest assured that the junior players in Halifax will have an outlet to train.
It's a remit from RL, because we used to have a scholarship in academy and then under 23s. We had everything. The remit from RL stopped us doing all that, and we, the supporters, were actually financing it.
Yeah, there's obviously been a lot of changes at the junior level in the sport. Obviously, I've been involved in that from 20s to 18s to 19s, dual reg, 23s. I can't really comment on what the RFL are thinking in terms of the pathway. I am, I suppose, employed in a way by the RFL. I work with the England Knights for the last 2 years, and I'm working with England Academy. So I'm not going to kick them in the teeth, because I think they're doing some great stuff in terms of producing English players, which is basically what it's about. Whether we've got that right at the junior level, at scholarship level, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure what the answer is. I tell you what, my experience of playing, and it was from Halifax when I played on a Thursday night in an A-team game at Thrumall, and we played Bradford, and it was there must have been 2,000 fans there, and I was 17-year-old playing against men, you know, and playing in front of 2,000 fans, and it was such a I remember it to this day. It was brilliant for my development. Now, I'm not saying they were the good old days, but there was some merit to that. You know, you stood up against men, and your development actually accelerated. So at my time at Warrington, where we had the 20s, we had, you know, you allowed 3 or 4 or 5 overage players. I think, you know, that's probably the way it should be going, as opposed to dual reg or whatever. I think that's the development of junior players. They need to be playing week in, week out against top players, really.
No under 20s this time, but the fringe players that don't get in the team each week, how do we keep them match fit other than send them out to other clubs, which obviously we don't want to do because we don't know what the injury situation could be.
Yeah, we don't know. On a week-to-week basis, obviously we've got our 17 players and a couple there in the squad. People are going to miss out. You know, we're going to develop relationships with championship clubs, and if they need to play and go out on loan, then they will do so. The conditioner will be doing sessions, top-up sessions, in terms of if you're not playing, you need to actually play a game. Not physically, obviously 17, but you can actually replicate what you need to do in a game, and we'll be doing that, you know, on a weekly basis. That's my job, to manage the squad, making sure whoever comes in is ready to play. That's key, especially towards the end of the season, when the playoffs come around and the stakes get a lot higher. We've got to expect that the players are ready to play if and when called upon. Hopefully we'll get some relationships, and then players who aren't involved will be either playing elsewhere or hopefully playing well enough to be included in our first team.